Hello, Serge here from the Backyard Driving Range. We have a question that came in from Jim Salvarakis, and it's a little on the long side, but I think I need to read it all, so bear with me, because it's a really good question and it needs to be answered to help clear a lot of things up here. Okay, he says, Serge, I have been reading your daily lessons for a number of years and have learned a lot, and my game has improved. I am 69 years old, in excellent health, and no physical issues. One persistent problem is the right slice fade block. I have seen your many lessons on this problem and am very aware of alignment, ball position, etc. However, I believe one of my problems is the initial bump / hip motion at the start of the downswing. I took your advice to do a lateral hip bump. However, since the hips are approximately 35 degrees counterclockwise to the swing channel target line at the top of the backswing, doesn't a true lateral hip movement at that point cause a club path off to the right and therefore a ball flight to the right? Really good logical observation. Okay? It would if you didn't then start turning and getting the club from once you started that transition to the ball and impact, and I'll explain that a lot better. Have you noticed or encountered this issue before? It seems to me that the correct initial movement is to rotate the hips back to the starting position at the setup and then move laterally along the target line or swing channel, or as I call it the aiming alley. Okay? Look forward to your response, Jim Salvarakis. Okay, Jim. Again, you're looking kind of at things logically here, but remember, first thing we got to realize is that we're dealing with laws of physics, and one of the laws we're dealing with here is bodies in motion stay in motion, the direction they were put in motion, to otherwise acted upon by an outside source. All right, so let's discuss what you're talking about for starters. When I stand up here, let me see, make sure these angles are hopefully a little bit clearer. I want this somewhat close to being straight at the camera, parallel left here. If we start parallel left, our body's at a 90-degree angles. If we turn our arms over the toe line and up, we're going to have effectively about a 70-degree shoulder turn and about a 35-degree hip turn, as Jim accurately stated here. Now, his question is this. He has a double question. If we turn to here, and again, remember, when I talk about bumping my hips, I'm talking about the lower square, which is the ankles to the knees. Ankles to the knees is the lower square, then knees to hips, hips to shoulders. So we have what we call some separation points in our body here. All right, where I can have a little bit of independent hip movement and keep my shoulders still, okay, hip and lower body. All right, not a whole lot, but I got enough where I can have a difference, and that's what causes more stretch once I make the transition. So when we have the very limited hip turn, because of the fact that we're keeping the outward pressure on our knees, and we barely move that left knee, if I stand here, and you can see it's obvious this club is aimed parallel left of the camera right now, but what little turn I make, you see how it's turned just a little bit, and it's kind of pointing pretty close to or at the camera, but it's not definitely past the camera unless I have a lot more movement with it. So if you make a limited turn, that's right about there, and my arms are now over here. So when I make that bump, the first bump is I'm basically swinging and bumping where my body is going down towards the target, and as soon as I bump, what is the key with the bump? Once you bump, it's to start the transition where the lower body goes before while the hands and arms are going up there. So there's a moment in time when both halves of the body, hips lower, are going one way. In this case, it would be starting to go that way towards the target, and the upper body is still back here with the arms and clubs still going up a fraction. So there's a moment in time where the lower body, the knees and the hips are going that way, and the arms and club are still going this way. All right, which is adding more stretch. So when I bump, and that's going one way and this is going that way, what happens? There's a point in time when I reach maximum stretch and it has to be a winner. All right, and so who's the winner going to be? The winner is going that way, because why? We got to come from here to hit the ball on the way through the ball up to the finish. So when those forces hit the hands and the arms, that's when you better really be maintaining a firm left wrist, because that's when it can really start breaking it down. And as you know, we believe good wrist action is no wrist action. We maintain our angles. So once I get up here and I've had that little bit of turn and I bump, when it finally hits here, the hands are going to start getting pulled down. I actually call, without a doubt, there's actually a small free fall period, which is maybe an inch or two max. All right, so when I get up here and it hits, I get that free fall. Now the point is, number one, the key that can ruin this whole system really quickly is how do you bump? I got that concept I call ring the bell. You find the top of the backswing by putting your arm down like this, put your back arm under your forward elbow, lift up, put your hands up, and the bell is right there where that hand is. Bing, bang, that's when I go. But what is the big killer to make it a bump? How much do you bump? A lot of people think a bump is this big, in some cases almost violent action of thrusting your hips. No, the bump is just this little bit of what? My right foot is starting to push off. My right foot's starting to push off, and my bump's only going to go the distance it takes to get from the weight to get from my right leg to hitting my left leg. And once it hits the outside of the leg, that's it, the bump's over. And how far does the bump really bump? Just look at my belt buckle. It's probably going no more than an inch, two at the max. And that's one of the reasons why we have a narrower stance, because the sooner you hit that outside leg and your weight's there, now you can post up and stand up on it as you swing through to stand up to your T finish. But if you got a longer leg and if your stance is way too wide, you got a longer bump, and that can start breaking the legs down even more or forcing it into straightening up and going backwards. So the bump's only about an inch, two at the max, and it's almost as fast as snapping your fingers. And so the key becomes, if I get up here and I get up here and I had that little bit of turn and I turn back this way, body's in motion, stay in motion. The first thing that's going to happen is if you turn from the top, you're out and over. I can't say it any more plain, more simple than that. If you immediately turn from the top of the backswing, even with the limited peak performance turn, which is about 35 degrees with the hips and about 70 with the shoulders to get the left arm over the toe line, your forward arm over the toe line. If your first turn is coming back this way, you're going out and over. But if you stand back here and you bump, the hand, everything falls straight down. It falls straight down until the body starts turning after you've had that initial bump taken away from the back foot to the forward foot. Boom, once it's there, and then you're starting to turn. So you got that little lateral shift, slide, whatever you want to call it, which is no more than about an inch to 2 inches max of your belt buckle. And then you start turning. So they're good observations, but you have to understand the body's a connected network of muscles and bones. And whatever you do, even with a limited turn, you start that turn from the top, you're out and over, and there's your outside in swing, which can hit everything from blocks and chops out to the right, blocks, pushes, block slices, chops, chunks, thins, and then release a little bit more, and next thing you know, you've opened up everything to the left if you're a right-hander, which is now being into pulls and pull hooks and everything else. So the bump, the key is the bump is just about an inch or two, and it has to happen straight from where you swung over to your toe line here, and then you start turning. So you have to have that lateral shift first, because that is the only move that anatomically will pull the hands straight down at the top of the backswing, which means if they're coming straight down, they're staying inside, and they're going to approach slightly from the inside for the club to square up at impact. You turn immediately, you're out over the top, and you know what that's going to cause. All right, so hopefully this clears up a lot of this issue, and with a proper bump, and it all starts with the wide knees outward pressure, maintaining that very limited turn, so that little slide, and you're coming down, and you come straight down for the top. Your arms fall straight down. Versus if you turn, they're out. Okay? Hopefully this clears this up, and once you get this bump down right, you're in good shape. And remember, you can only truly bump if you're aimed properly, because if you're out to the right, and even if you did all this correctly, you'll still be firing a bunch of shots to the right until you get tired of that, and then try to make some other adjustments, and boom, then you'll have all the other everything else up and over to the other side of the ball and the aiming line. All right, so alignment again is critically important. But once you get this bump down, it's going to help you know that you're not lined up right if you make a good move and you're firing them to the right or eventually falling backwards or whatever and hitting them to the left. Okay? So that's it for the search for today on clarifying a bump. And it's a critical part to really a nice, well-timed golf swing to hit good, solid golf shots. so we can shoot those lower scores. That's it for the search for today, and I'll be talking to y'all again soon.